Hello debaters! At the start of this video series, I told you that one of the great things about policy debate is that every high school debater throughout the nation debates the exact same policy debate resolution. What I didn't tell you is that everyone across this country debates a little differently. And these differences not only occur between regions of the country, they also occur within those regions and even within tournaments from round to round. Good debaters learn to adapt to the judge in the back of the room, and great debaters customize their debate style to meet the needs of the judge. So, this video is dedicated to mixing it up a bit and celebrating the wide variety of debate styles and judging paradigms that you might experience in your debate career. Some of what I'll teach you today applies to every single debate round, but there may be some other things that I say that don't apply to you at all. Here's why. In many parts of the country, debate rounds are judged by parents and community members who volunteer to judge and have no debate experience. For these programs, debate rounds are typically much slower and wonderfully oratorical. In other parts of the country, debate rounds are only judged by highly experienced judges who understand debate as well or better than the debaters themselves. These rounds typically move lightning fast and are wonderfully complex. There are advantages and disadvantages to each style of debate, and as a coach of 20 years, I can tell you there are great things about both styles. And if you're wondering why some debate rounds are so ultra fast, here's a quick lesson. As you already know, it's bad for the team to drop an argument. For example, if the negative team says that the affirmative plan will lead to nuclear war, but the affirmative team doesn't say anything in response, that's not good, because it makes the affirmative team look like either they agree with the argument or that they aren't organized enough to respond to the arguments at all. Now let's kick it up a notch. What if instead of making 4 arguments with evidence in 8 minutes, the 1NC could make 7 arguments with evidence? That would make it more difficult for the opposing team to respond to, and it increases the likelihood that the opposing team would either drop an argument or at least fail to respond thoroughly. Now let's kick it up a notch again. What if the 1NC spoke so quickly that he or she was able to get through 12 arguments, including a topicality, critique, counterplan, and 2 disadvantages, plus responding to all of the arguments introduced by the affirmative team? If that were the case, the only way the affirmative team could respond to all of the arguments would to be as fast or faster than the 1NC. Strategically speaking, the faster speaker has a significant advantage. And so speed debate has emerged in the past few decades, and for many areas of the country, it is the only type of debate. But before you start debating like an auctioneer, be aware that 3 things must be true before you have a speed round. First, you actually have to be able to read fast, and this is easier said than done and requires immense practice. Second, you have to have a judge who is prepared to move as fast or faster than you are. If you have an inexperienced judge, you'll anger and confuse them. Third, you've got to understand debate at a deep enough level where you fill your speaking time with meaningful arguments. And although it might be good practice to speak so rapidly, it makes less sense if you only fill half your speaking time. And ultimately, this video isn't about different styles of debate because you want to speak quickly or slowly. This video is about judge adaptation. That's a term that means changing the way you debate based on the experience level and preferences of the judge in the back of the room. So let's spend the rest of our time talking about judge adaptation and preferences. There are typically 4 categories of judges: lay judges, experienced lay judges, flay judges, and flow judges. Here's a brief description of each. Lay judges have little or no experience. Experienced lay judges have a lot of judging experience, but no formal training in debate. Flay judges competed in debate many years ago and may or may not be able to keep up with a complex round. And the final category is the flow judge, who, in theory, understands debate as well or better than the debaters in the room. So how do you know how to categorize each judge? This process starts as soon as you walk into the room. The first goal you have when walking into the debate room isn't to size up the other team and worry about whether they're better than you. Your first goal is to prejudge the judge. Now, of course, I don't mean you should form opinions based on how they dress or what they look like. I mean that you need to determine the experience level of the judge based on what you see. Does the judge have a laptop or a stack of flow paper? If so, she or he is probably pretty experienced. Does the judge give you verbal clues, such as asking where to sit or what to do with this ballot? Your eyes and ears will tell you more about the judge's experience level than you realize. At a minimum, you'll be able to tell whether the judge is lay, flow, or something in between. Your second goal is to ask a few questions that help you adapt to the judge's preference. If it is obvious that the judge is brand new to the judging experience, avoid asking questions such as, "Have you ever judged before?" or "Do you have a judge paradigm?" Such questions put the judge on the defensive because the question makes them feel inadequate and unprepared. Instead, ask, "Do you have any judging preferences for the particular type of style or debate you prefer?" This question does 3 things. First, it's open-ended, so the judge with no experience can still say something like, "No," and not feel embarrassed. Second, it makes you look good because it tells the judge that you are capable of debating using a variety of styles and strategies. Third, it opens the door to more questions if necessary. Experienced judges will answer the question with specific answers that allow you to ask follow-up questions, such as, do you often vote for generic disadvantages? Inexperienced judges will answer the question with vague answers that allow you to smile and say thank you. Now let's deviate for a few minutes and talk about judge paradigms. There are 5 judge paradigms that are common to the debate community. Often, experienced judges may know the label that applies best to them. Now, in your corner of the debate community, you may see only a few of these, or you might see all of them. So up here we go. First, we have the lay judge. The lay judge is the only type of judge whose paradigm is defined by his or her lack of a paradigm. But that doesn't mean that you can do anything you want. Lay judges want to see more clash earlier in the debate and fewer pre-written arguments that aren't weighed until the rebuttals. Lay judges are much more likely to vote on professionalism, courtesy, mutual respect, and appearance. The first negative may want to structure his or her M1NC just a little bit differently in front of a lay judge, putting case before off case, since the lay judge is assuming that the negative team will be responding to the specific arguments made by the affirmative team first. Generally speaking, lay judges benefit from clearer, slower speaking styles that avoid jargon and repeat, reinforce, and restate the main ideas often. The second paradigm is the stock issues judge. The stock issues judge is more likely to evaluate the round on whether the affirmative team met its burden of proof to prove inherency, harm, solvency, and when required to, topicality. Some stock issue judges approach the round using a winner-takes-all approach, wherein the negative team only has to win one stock issue to win the entire debate round. Other judges use a more balanced approach that combines the evaluation of stock issues with a policymaker paradigm. Stock issues judges are more likely to favor teams that organize their speeches by stock issue. So instead of saying, let's go to my next argument, funding, you might say instead, let's go to my next argument, solvency. As long as you keep your speeches organized by stock issue, judges with the stock issue paradigm will have no trouble keeping up with you at all. The policymaker paradigm views the round as a member of Congress, or at least as a citizen deciding what's best for America. Now, it's true that many lay judges default to a policymaker paradigm because they often vote up or down whether they personally like the affirmative plan, which may mean that the debaters are subject to the political whims of whomever is in the back of the room. But a true policymaker paradigm will focus primarily on advantages versus disadvantages and what benefits the country and its citizens. While you might think that the policymaker paradigm simply requires you to wave the flag and sing the anthem, it's a lot more accurate to think of the policymaker paradigm as requiring you to weigh arguments based on what's in the best interest of the nation. The third paradigm is Tabula Rasa, which is Latin for clean slate. Of all the paradigms, Tabula Rasa is the least well understood, not by judges, but by the debaters themselves. Debaters think that Tabula Rasa means that the judge will believe anything, accept anything, and vote on everything. In other words, the judge's mind is a clean slate, and so he or she will embrace every idea. In reality, Tabula Rasa means that debaters must be careful to explain why a particular argument wins, why the judge should vote for the argument, and how the round should be evaluated. You'll often hear Tabula Rasa judges say things like, "Don't make me do the work for you," or "Win the round without me," or "Tell me how to vote." When you hear these things, it's because the judge needs to hear more than just, "You're always going to vote on solvency over inherency every time," because such arguments present claims without warrants. Believe it or not, as a judge, there are dozens of times each round where a speaker will make an argument that requires us as a judge to do the hard work for you because you're not offering enough analysis, explaining your argument thoroughly, or connecting all the dots. Tabula Rasa judges don't like to connect the dots for you. They expect you to do that for them. The fourth paradigm is hypothesis tester. Though it's a fairly uncommon label for judges to give themselves these days, hypothesis testers evaluate the round not through the policy framework focused on whether the proposed affirmative plan is good or bad, but on a hypothesis that the United States federal government should do whatever the resolution says it should do. And thus the plan is little more than an example of why we should do the resolution. This gives both teams more flexibility to explore the outer edges of the resolution that aren't necessarily captured in the 1AC. The fifth and final paradigm is games player. The games paradigm is fairly easy to explain. As long as you can explain it and justify it, the judge will accept any argument, no matter how absurd it is. The paradigm capitalizes on debate as a strategic game in which the better debater is the one who is more prepared to argue that anything that might come their way. This doesn't mean that the games player judge throws the rules out the window, but it does mean that they typically vote for the team that offers better offense and better defense. So if you want to argue a counterplan that says we should drain and sell all the water in Lake Michigan and put put it on Mars, then as long as you can defend that argument with at least a little bit of evidence, you should beat a team who would not be able to defend against that sort of attack because they don't have evidence. Now that we've covered the 5 types of judge paradigms, let's go back to our goals for judge adaptation. Your third and final goal is to deliver. And by deliver, I mean give the judge exactly what she or he wants, for the most part. So judges like flay judges might overestimate their abilities, so you really need to watch them visually. If they stop flowing or look confused or make lots of eye contact, those may be signs that you need to slow down, back up, and crystallize your arguments. And just because a judge says she or he can handle speed doesn't mean you need to go full throttle the entire round. As a judge who can handle speed, I don't care how fast you can go, and going faster doesn't impress me. What I do care about is solid argumentation and good strategy, and that doesn't always require full speed. Ultimately, judge adaptation is about customizing what you say and how you say it so that it has the greatest impact on the judge in your round, in your room, at that tournament. Over time, you'll gain the flexibility you need to adapt to any judge. Okay, that's all for now. Good luck, debaters.